What is going on? Wait a minute, is the army actually aiming at the birds? Yup. Hey everyone, welcome to Laugh Pack. My name is Jeff, you can call me Jeff, and today we have a story for you. It's absurd. It's like something out of a bad comedy sketch. Imagine a world where the war rages on between man and bird. And not just any bird, but emus. Yeah, I'm talking about that cute bird that is in all of the Liberty Mutual commercials. You know the one. Today, we are covering the Great Emu War of 1932. And I've got to tell you, spoiler alert, the emus kind of win. So that's great. Let's jump in. Okay, so in 1932, the Australian outback is kind of under siege. But before we get into our feathery invaders, let's rewind a bit. Australia in the early 1930s was a country on its knees. The Great Depression had hit hard, especially in rural areas. Farmers, the backbone of the economy, relied on exports like wheat and wool. But when the global markets collapsed, demand for those products kinda dried up. Wheat prices plummeted by as much as 50%, and the loans that many farmers were taking out during better times became impossible to pay back. And the government, they promised subsidies to help ease the pain. But those payments? Delayed, sporadic, or just never showed up. Now toss in droughts because why not? And you've got an already desperate situation. So when these struggling farmers saw their hard-fought crops being devoured by emu, it wasn't just a nuisance. It felt like nature itself had declared war on the farmers. And war? That's exactly what the farmers declared back. These oversized birds, up to 6 feet tall, started migrating in massive numbers, thousands of them, right into farmland. And these birds, they did not just pass through politely. No. They went full rock star, trashing crops like they were hotel rooms and leaving chaos in their wake. Now, to many in the city, this was just a little annoyance. But to the farmers, full-on invasion. They needed help, so they went to the government and basically said, hey, we're being attacked. Send in the army, send in the navy, send in the government, send in the big red button that shoots the giant missiles. Alright, that might have been too far. But you know what? The government actually agreed to all this. Minus the big red button thing. This was the setup for one of history's weirdest battles. Humans versus emus. The farmers had rifles, sure, but this was a job for heavy artillery. Enter Major G.P.W. Meredith of the Australian military. He was sent in with soldiers, Lewis guns, basically machine guns, and 10,000 rounds of ammunition for the emus. Let that sink in. So the first battle began on November 2nd, 1932. Meredith and his team spotted a group of 50 emus. They set up their machine guns, took aim, and the emus scattered. They were too fast, they were too agile, and apparently bulletproof. The soldiers barely hit any of them. And the emus didn't just run away, they regrouped. I'm talking strategic emu war tactics, a sentence I never thought I would say. One farmer even described them as splitting into smaller groups and moving like soldiers. These birds were outsmarting the military every step. And honestly, they were kind of winning. Sorry, a little victory dance. But the army wasn't ready to give up. So they tried again a few days later. This time they found about 1,000 emus near a dam. Well, it's a perfect opportunity, right? Well, not so much. They opened fire and their gun jammed after a few rounds. The emus, however, well, they just ran off. unharmed. Well, it's official. Emus are unstoppable. By the end of the week, the soldiers had used up a huge chunk of their ammo and only managed to take out a few dozen birds. Meanwhile, the overall population of emus was thriving, continuing their crop-destroying rampage. I'm so torn because I shouldn't be rooting for the emus. But you know what? I'm not alone in this way of thinking, not even with a lot of Australians during that time. See, while all this chaos was happening out in the farmlands, the rest of Australia was watching from a distance. And let's just say, they had some thoughts. News of the Emu War spread quickly, and the headlines, they were pretty brutal. Citizens were torn between sympathy for the struggling farmers and absolute disbelief that the military was losing to emus. It became a bit of a national joke. One paper wrote, "The emus have proved that they are not only a menace to our crops, but a danger to our dignity." Ouch. And you know, people were sitting around the dinner table saying, "Hey, wait a minute, our taxes are going to machine guns to take out birds." It was like watching the most bizarre soap opera unfold. Some even called the military to pull out and stop embarrassing themselves. The media treated the whole thing like it was part comedy, part tragedy. There were photos of soldiers trying and failing to corner emus, stories about farmers chasing these birds off with pitchforks, and plenty of mocking cartoons. One cartoon even showed an emu wearing a medal with the caption, "Hero of the Outback." But behind all the jokes, there was real frustration. The farmers felt abandoned, the government looked incompetent, and the emus, well, they were probably just strutting around like they owned the place. To be fair, the Great Emu War did highlight how desperate Australian farmers had become after the Great Depression. They weren't just losing crops, they were losing their livelihood. So while the rest of the country was laughing, the farmers were dealing with a very real problem. A real problem that the army was no longer going to deal with. The government decided to leave it in the farmers' hands by equipping them with their own ammunition and special fencing. And that's about all the help the farmers received. Overall, about 1,000 to 2,000 emus were taken out during the entirety of the war, which is just a drop in the bucket compared to the 22,000 that were wandering the plains. Okay, so what is the takeaway here? Don't mess with emus. They'll outrun you, outsmart you, and make you look ridiculous in the process. And that is all we have today. If you like this wild story and you want more, let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe so you stay up to date on future episodes that are going to be coming out. And I will see you all next time.